right, well, welcome to the Proclaim and Defend podcast. This is a new thing that we are sponsoring from the Foundations Baptist Fellowship International. I'm Don Johnson, the pastor of Grace Baptist Church of Victoria. I'm also the editor of Proclaim and Defend, the blog of the FBFI. To start with, I'd just like to read our mission statement. It's a reminder of what the FBFI is out to do, what we're trying to accomplish in the world. So I'll just read that to you. The Foundations Baptist Fellowship International is a fellowship of individuals. Our mission is to provide a rallying point for fundamental Baptists seeking personal revival and the opportunity to work with committed Bible believers in glorifying God through the uncompromising fulfillment of the Great Commission. So in order to accomplish that purpose, there's several things that we do. Especially what I'm involved in is writing. I sometimes write for the Frontline magazine itself. We have numerous others who write there and edit articles and provide material. And then the other place where I mostly am occupied is with the Proclaim and Defend blog. We try to write especially to provide a biblical perspective on current issues, things that are of interest to everyone, that sometimes you don't really get a really straight biblical perspective, certainly not from the news media, and sometimes even from various Christian perspectives. They're not as tied as tightly to the Bible as we might like. That's what we're trying to do. So we've decided to start this podcast. The idea of the podcast is not just so that we can hear ourselves talk, but actually we want to be able to promote the writing that we have in Frontline magazine. We want to encourage subscriptions to Frontline magazine. And so we're going to do it in a couple of ways. One of the things that we're going to do is, with the podcast, is interview the authors of our of each article. Hopefully, we spend a bit of time on Zoom using the technology of Zoom. We sort of have to deal with various lighting situations and so forth, but we get it done. And the main thing about that is the content. We think the information that these authors have provided is very important. In the interview, we give them an opportunity to discuss the issue even a little bit more fully, or in other areas that they weren't able to include in the article. And we hope it promotes your interest in the article itself, so that you might read it and take in that information. But in keeping with that, then we want to encourage you to subscribe to the magazine. But not just necessarily the magazine. You could subscribe simply to the print magazine. But what we're offering through the podcast is an online subscription to our Substack portal. And that means you can read the article that you've listened to or watched the interview right away. We'll have that article posted. And that's $5 a month to have a monthly subscription. We also are going to offer a slightly reduced rate, $50 a year, for an annual subscription. That'll give you access to all the articles, and in addition, we'll subscribe you to the print magazine. So you can see what our objective is. We want to get the word out, and we do want to build subscriptions. There is a little thing in Substack where they, I think they call it the Founders subscription. We haven't really figured out what to offer with the Founders subscription. So the best we can do is say you can get a real reward from supporting the work of the FBFI with a larger donation, and we're always glad to accept that. So I hope that you might, some of you might wish to take part in that. We would really appreciate it. In the meantime, we are going to be starting with interviews from our January-February 2023 edition of Frontline magazine. We have interviewed most of the authors. The subject matter of this first magazine was Christian ethics and medical choices. And so, or actually the title is Biblical Counsel for Medical Choices. So we've had an article on the ethics surrounding the development of the COVID vaccine. Now, most everybody's probably made their own choices about that already. We're not really arguing about that. But what we wanted to do is provide information if you're still making a choice, or if you're considering any medication, because some of these same techniques are used in testing and developing all kinds of medications. So it's well worth your time to spend some time reading and thinking about this. So that interview actually will be our first podcast starting at this coming Saturday is our plan to put that one up. We have several other topics that we've covered. The question about using medicine at all for a Christian. What should be our choice on that? And the author of the article gives us a bit of historical overview and then some further information, and I think it's quite interesting. Another author addresses the ethics of cosmetic surgery. That's something that most of us never ever think about. Perhaps if you have an accident or a burn or something, you're aware of it. There are other medical reasons why someone might need to have cosmetic surgery. And then there's other reasons that people choose to follow that route, and they make good or bad choices, and we're going to talk about that in that particular article and the interview. I think you'll find it quite interesting. There's an article on fertility treatments. That is another area where Christians do have questions. What should I think about this? And especially for those couples who have been unable to have children, and our heart certainly goes out to them. And they have to make decisions. And so we're just trying to provide biblical information about how to think about these particular matters. There are several others that are covered in that magazine, including the ethics surrounding death and dying, and what kind of care one should give when someone is nearing the end of life and so forth. We have another article on whether someone should go into the medical profession at all, or what kind of choices that they're going to be faced with and the ethical challenges that they're going to be faced with as well. So that's the plan. Basically planning overall to publish a podcast every other week. Initially, for this first issue, I think we may be going weekly just to get ourselves up to speed, or at least several weeks in a row. We'll just see how it goes. We are also experimenting and learning how to do this. So I hope you'll bear with us if any glitches come up, and please let us know. You can write to me at editor@proclaimanddefend.org, and we can try to smooth out some of those things that inevitably we have missed as we are setting things up. Let's see, is there anything else that I want to say? The thing that is most important about our podcast series is the message of each interview and each article. And I hope that you'll take the time to think it through and think about what is being presented to you. I do think our writers have done a good job at presenting their material. I subscribe to other Christian magazines as well. I find that the Frontline magazine is really outstanding, in my own opinion. Of course, it's our own magazine. We tend to have our own rose-colored glasses. But as I compare it to the work that I see elsewhere, I have to say that our writers and our editors, they really don't take a backseat to anyone. We really appreciate what they're doing. And I hope that you will find it profitable, that you will subscribe, that we will be able to be a blessing to you in your own ministry. So as we conclude this initial podcast, I just want to thank you for watching or listening, and we will be back again soon with the Proclaim and Defend podcast.